Welcome to the Up in Your Family Business podcast, where we dive into the heart of family business with intimate interviews, expert insights, inspirational stories, valuable resources, and practical tips to help grow your family business. All right. I want to thank you for listening to and or watching this episode of Up in Your Family Business podcast. There's lots of things you could be doing with your time, lots of podcasts you could be watching or listening to, and I'm very thankful and grateful that you chose to be here with us. The goal and purpose of this podcast, with the help of our guests such as Mark, are to help family businesses gain insights, solve problems, be inspired, seize opportunities, and achieve multi-generational prosperity. So, good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
Okay.
A little tired.
Yeah.
But,
A little tired.
A little tired. I have a newborn, but everything's going perfect.
You said the baby was born 20 days ago?
Yep.
So she's not sleeping. The baby's not sleeping through the night yet.
Well, doing pretty well.
Really?
Can't complain. No,
Okay.
We're getting a few hour stretches between feedings, but still not all the way through the night. But that's to be expected.
Yeah.
And being our fourth child, we knew what we were getting ourselves into. So we are so happy that he made his appearance a few weeks ago, and just having a new chapter of our life.
So are you guys going for 5 or 4 is good?
It's all in God's hands.
Okay.
So I don't think we're planning on it.
Oh,
but
boy.
if it happens, he made that happen. So
That's it. We did the same thing. We had 2, and we were like, should we have a third? Maybe not. And then God said, "Yep, here's your third."
exactly.
So we didn't try not to. We didn't try to. We kind of just left it up to God and nature, and we got our third. Now, after the third came, we were like, we're done.
Yeah.
Or at least she was done.
Yeah, I think that's how my wife feels now. But we'll see. We're in the thick of it right now.
Okay. All right. So who is this guy, Mark, that I'm talking to right now? You're probably wondering. So today's guest is Mark Loose, third generation at Loose Funeral Homes and Crematory, which has been serving customers since October 79. Is that right?
Yes. We're just next week, October 1st, is our anniversary.
That's right.
45 years.
That's right. That's okay. That's right. I'm freaking out that we're almost in October. Someone told me the other day, "Can you believe in October?" I'm like, "Shut up! Don't tell me this. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to know that we're closer to winter."
It's flown by.
It is flying by.
Yes.
So Mark is third generation, but he serves as the general manager, and you're also, of course, a licensed funeral director.
I am a licensed funeral director. I've been licensed. Next year, it'll be my 10th year. But I have grown up in this business, being the third generation. So I've been helping for almost 20 years.
Since you were 14, right?
14.
14. Yeah. Now, your mom and dad are both licensed funeral directors, or just your dad?
Father.
Just your dad.
My father.
Okay.
No, my mom. She helps on our pet division, but she owned her own retail store here in Anderson for 37 years.
Oh, I did not know that. What's the name?
She owned Money Huns Fine Gifts and Furnishings.
That's right. Okay, I'm very familiar with Money Huns. I did not know your mom was a part of that.
Yep, my mom was Jane Money Hun, and
yeah,
started that with her sister.
Very cool.
And her mother.
I love that building down there in the corner, 8th and Jackson.
115.
Man, yeah, that was a nice place. Beautiful building, beautiful shop. What made them decide to shut it down?
Well, my mom wanted to retire.
Okay.
And so she sold her portion to my grandmother.
Oh.
And then when my grandma passed away, everything went to my aunt. And my aunt, she had a massive stroke.
Oh, is that what happened?
And,
okay.
Got to stay open for a few more years after that. But it was time for her to start living life. And so they closed the doors in July, I think, of 2019.
Yeah.
And actually my aunt passed away just a few months after that.
Aww.
So it was just the perfect timing to get out. She started living life, and it was very unexpected that she passed, but she had it all planned out of what she was going to do the rest of her life, and unfortunately, she passed, but fortunately, she's now in the glory of God. So it's a blessing in disguise.
I wonder what funeral home she used.
I wonder.
It's a mystery.
I wonder.
It's a mystery.
Yes.
So as I pointed out, you've been with it. You've been a part of it for 14 years. As do a lot of not. It'd be interesting. I wonder what majority of, if there's a statistic on what the majority of family-owned businesses, their next generation starts when they're like 14, 13, 12. I would guess it would be pretty common.
I would say so. They're not doing the main things of the business, but kind of being the gopher, go around and do whatever needs to be done. Whether for me, that's going around pulling weeds, vacuuming, washing windows, parking cars, just everything that, it is the necessity and of the business.
Oh, so you were the valet guy for a while.
I still will be the valet guy if I need to be. The job needs to get done, and I'm not good enough to do anything. I'll clean toilets, I'll vacuum, it's a home. So everything you do at your house, we do too.
Okay. So your job description is loosely based?
Oh, it's very loosely based. Pun not intended.
Yeah.
But,
you see what I did there? Did you like that?
I sure did.
Okay.
I wear a lot of hats. Funeral directors in general wear lots of hats. And we got to go with the flow.
Yeah, you can't just do the job. You got to be a people person. You got to have a lot of skills, and we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff today, in terms of how you have to engage and interact with the people that are, the families that you serve, the guests, things like that. It really is. Even though it's a very sad time, you still have to make it a positive experience as best you can.
Absolutely.
So, I love that. So I'm assuming your 20-day-old, she's not part of the business yet. She's not quite there yet.
He is.
Oh, he.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
He is not.
Oh, he's not, okay.
No, but
so he's a slacker. Okay, whatever.
My other three, they come in and help. And
do they really? What are their ages?
So my daughter is going to be 8.
She's already a part of it? Very cool.
She comes in and she'll wear a nice dress and walk around with me. And,
that's cool.
And so will my boys, 6 and 4. They'll put a little sport coat on and they'll help me dismiss a chapel, or they'll just hang out with Dad at work.
That's awesome.
So it's memories I have going to work with my dad and seeing my dad and my grandfather work, and again, it's just a big old family.
Yeah. So when your kids are there, like little colorful shadows.
Yes.
That's really cool. You had 4. So you were smart. You had 4 kids. You're like a farmer. The more kids you have, the more farm hands you have. There's a good chance that one or more of your kids is going to be part of the 4th generation.
You're right, but I'm going to be exactly like my parents and not push me into it.
Okay.
I made the decision on my own.
Okay.
I did not want to do this until I got to college and realized, well, what am I going to do with my life? And I think if they would have said, well, you're going to take over the business, I definitely would not have done that.
Okay.
So if my kids want to do it, fantastic. But I am not betting on that, and I don't want to force them. It's got to be a calling, because true. Our business is unlike
it's a heavy load.
Nearly any business out there.
Yeah.
So,
do you have brothers and sisters?
I'm an only
That's
child.
what I thought. Okay, I didn't want to make that. I was pretty, from what I understand of the Loose family, I was pretty certain you were the only child. But I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, I have a couple cousins on the Loose side that could have come into the business, but one of them worked there during high school, doing kind of those odd jobs, but. Again, it's got to be a calling, and because if you don't love it, you're not going to learn to love it.
That'd be a really hard job. If you don't love it, that's going to be a really taxing job.
You won't.
Yeah, you won't survive. You'll be miserable.
You'll be out.
Well, you'll either be miserable or you can't fake it, so you'll do a lousy job and you'll be out of business. There's no way you can fake that stuff.
No, I always heard a statistic when I was in mortuary school. after 10 years of graduating, only 10% of the people that graduated are still in the business.
Whoa. Wow.
Because I think a lot of people get into it because they see that we wear suits and ties and may drive a Cadillac. But it's not a 9-to-5 job.
I was just going to say, your schedule is not your own.
No, it's a 24/7, 365. When those families are enjoying holidays together, we may start that, and then we get a phone call, and we have to say, see ya. We'll be back when we can be, because we sacrifice ourselves for the good of the others.
Yeah. It's probably really hard for you. You can't really, you have to be really careful what you promise your family. Hey, honey, I'm going to take you and the kids down to the canal, and we're going to walk the canal on Friday. Sorry, honey, I can't do that. I have a funeral at 2 and a funeral at 5 and a funeral at 7, and I got to be over at the cemetery at 11, and boom. It's crazy.
It is, and it's definitely an adjustment that my wife, not being in that on-call lifestyle before, she's had to, or she's still kind of adjusting to that. But I definitely know that my family is my top priority.
Yeah.
And I try to be there as much as I can. But I have a job to be there and be that rock for people that call us too.
So are you working 7 days a week?
It feels like that. Sometimes it's like that.
Is there a day of the week where you're going to be off, or it isn't that simple?
It's not that simple. It's not that simple. We could be very busy on that day, or not maybe busy, but have a lot of things going on, or someone's on vacation or someone's sick. So, even if it's like yesterday, oh, Mark, you're going to get the day off. No, I was there for 4 hours, and then I took an early day off, but I still was in there. You got to get the job done. The families depend on you. So,
there's a lot that goes before, during, and after even. So, wow. 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 Okay. All right. I want to get back to you. There is one more thing I want to say about yours. So, your focus, you shared with me, your focus is on how to accommodate the cremation families, and I think you share in the celebration of life. Did you share with me that the cremation now accounts for about 50% of the services over traditional? Is that correct?
Yes. I believe the National Funeral Directors Association, or NFDA, came out with a statistic. They forecast trends and things, and I believe it was 2025. It's going to be the cremation rate
higher
nationwide, over 50%.
Why do you think that's happening?
I think there's a lot of different answers to that.
Okay.
I think one of them, what people are listening, or when they think of cremation, they think, oh, it's less expensive. So
easier.
I think it's easier.
Right.
I think cost is one of them. But I'm a firm believer that I think that because of how mobile the country is now, or not everyone stays in the same place. They're born here in Anderson. They don't stay in Anderson their entire life. They go to college, they get a job, they move away. What makes them come back is because their parents have stayed here. But they don't want to necessarily have to come back and visit a place every single time.
Interesting.
So it's
they'd rather have them.
Yeah. So they will cremate mom. They will cremate
and then take
dad,
them home.
and then take them back home. My job is then to educate them about, well, what are you going to do with them once you pass away? Does someone then become the caretaker of the entire family?
And you got urns all across the mantle?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
It happens.
That's a good point.
Taking remains home is not an official disposition of a body. They need to go into a cemetery. They need to have a final resting place. But the beauty about cremation is you don't have to have that expense of going to the cemetery right then. You could bury the remains 10 years from then. And taking some of those decisions away from individuals at that terrible time of their loss, they like that they don't have to think about that. They can take time and really decide exactly what they want.
Interesting. Interesting. So is there, just on that, is apples to apples, baseline cremation versus baseline funeral? I say that, whatever that might, hopefully that makes sense. So as apples to apples as you can have, how much of a difference is there in cost between one and the other?
Well, there really doesn't have to be a difference. I think what we have to get out of people's minds is cremation means you don't see the body, there's no service, there's nothing. That is true. You don't have to have a service when you have cremation. But what we try to do is just, instead of going to the cemetery, they are cremated. So they can still be prepared for a viewing.
That's what I thought.
And
I thought
be
so.
placed into a casket, have a night of visitation, have a next day's service.
That's cool.
And just instead of getting in our car and heading to the cemetery, they're being cremated, and then we either meet at a later time once the cremation has taken place to bury those remains, or again they take them home.
How does the celebration of life work?
So I think a lot of people have different definitions of what a celebration of life is.
That's why I'm asking, because it was interesting you told me that, because I always think of celebration of life as something that happens post-mortem, like down the road. Oh, we couldn't have a funeral, or we didn't want to have a funeral, whatever. But you're a part of that. So how does the celebration of life work in your world?
Well, I think a celebration of life, I think every funeral should be a celebration of life. But when people say the words celebration of life, they're thinking, well, the body's not there.
Right.
It's more of...
It's more spiritual.
Or it could be more of a kind of a party instead of... because, again, you ask why people are getting cremated more. I think less people are less religious. And having there's just... So they want to have a celebration of life and take out that religious part of the funeral.
We've also lost some traditions. We've lost some traditions too, I think. Sure. Whether that's religious based or not, there are a lot of traditions that we used to do that are just changing. So. And
I will say those traditions are different from every area throughout the country.
Oh, really?
So if you're in the
if you're in the South, you're probably still doing it, I would think.
Oh yeah, you're in the South. Your cremation rate is still in the low teens, probably.
Low teens.
But you go to the coasts, you're looking at 70-80% cremation.
Wow.
And they'll say, well, it's because of land and we don't have enough space. Well, I don't think that's the truth. I think it's because of the mobility of our society now, and just not wanting to have a funeral.
Yeah, and some people too, whether they have a viewing or not, a lot of people are also doing the cremation because I've seen there's been a big uptick, and I want to spread their ashes on this body of water, this land, and that's become. I've noticed that over the years, that's become a big thing. So. Interesting. Well, we've covered a lot of stuff. We haven't even gotten into the meat of this yet.
Sounds
Holy
good.
cow!
Sounds good.
Sorry. I think before, I'm going to share with everybody. If you're, I should have done this in the beginning. You may notice that there's silence, and then there's like an echo or some background noise. So we're in this podcast studio, and right outside our podcast studio is what they call the GROW Conference. It's a conference designed for female women entrepreneurs. So This is definitely not a soundproof podcast studio because you can still hear that. So if you guys can hear that a little bit while we're talking, I do apologize. That's not poor production. That's not an error on our editing part. There's just nothing we can do about it. So I do apologize for the background noise. Hopefully that is not a distraction or interruption to the quality of our conversation. I mean, Mark, you and I aren't hearing it too badly, but
No.
I hope that isn't the case for our listeners and viewers as well. So real quickly, before I get into one more thing about Loose, could you do me a favor and I know we've already talked a little bit about the industry and about your children and your history, but just tell me a quick overview of Loose Funeral Home and Crematory as a whole.
Okay. Well, like I mentioned earlier, October 1st, 1979 is our fiscal year that we began 45 years ago. My grandfather started that. He managed a large funeral home here in town prior to that, and his goal was to purchase that funeral home. However, that owner sold to a different individual and let my grandfather go.
Okay.
So they kind of had a family meeting, and they were going to take the risk, and
They were determined.
and
Okay.
absolutely. So they started building in 78, and we opened in 79.
It's wild.
But my grandpa started in the funeral industry after he graduated high school in 1955. And then he got out of the funeral business for a couple of years, went and sold real estate in Michigan with his oldest brother, but always wanted to get back into it. And he then found a funeral home in Martinsville that he managed for, 6-7 months.
Okay.
And reason being it was that short is because he found a job to get back into the industry.
Okay.
But then his goal was to get back to Anderson, where his wife's family's from, and where he was from, and then found a funeral home to manage that he did for, I think it was 11 years or so, and then that's when they let him go, and
Okay.
the rest is history.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when we built out on the south side of town, there was absolutely nothing. All the funeral homes, all businesses were, downtown Anderson. The county or the city limit was 38th Street. Well, we're on 53rd. So no one thought that my grandpa would ever make it. And within a couple years, we were doing over a couple hundred funerals a year.
Okay. Okay.
Then my father came into the business. I mean, he's been there since day one, doing those odd jobs and things, and watching or listening for the phones night, so my grandpa could get some sleep.
Wow.
I mean, my grandpa was always said that for the first 3 years, never had a day off because it was a one-man show. Then he would gain a little business to have some part-time secretaries or part-time assistants, and it was not until 2 years in that he actually had another funeral director there. So,
Man, one person, that's a lot of work.
a lot of
Because
work,
because you're having to provide, you're on the front end with the families, and then all the stuff that goes on before and after, not to mention all the business related stuff, paying the bills and the finances, and wow.
Yeah, so he started in 79, and my dad came in as a funeral director. I think he became licensed, finished mortuary school in 85. So 86, I think that's when he was licensed. And my grandpa got it started and got it to a certain point, and then my dad has upped the game and made it to what it is now. And now my job is to continue and to just keep our business going, our legacy going, and keep serving the community that we love.
Yeah, that's really great.
So,
That's really great. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
It's always good to give a little background. Okay, what is the title of today and the description? Here, let's jump into this. What are we talking about today, Mark? Let's see. Let me see if I can. I'll make this up as we go along. So, beyond expectations, creating a legacy of superior customer care, not customer service, customer care. And I'll get into that in just a second. There is a distinction between service and care. In this episode, Mark and I will discuss the approach that Mark and his family at Loose Funeral Home and Crematory use to deliver unmatched customer care. By applying values of sincerity, respect, and empathy, they consistently exceed customer expectations. We'll explore how their personalized hospitality establishes a level of trust that fosters long-term relationships, builds a lasting reputation, and creates a competitive edge. And you will learn how they have passed these principles from generation to generation. So we'll hopefully get a little bit more into that grandfather, father, son lineage, turning superior customer care into a lasting legacy. So roll your sleeves up, get ready. Here we go. So, all right. So before I ask you some questions, Mark, let's just cover the difference. So customer care and customer service are both important. You provide both of them, but there is a distinction. What really, from what I've learned, what really does drive your business is not the service, but the care. So here it is. Customer service is the advice or assistance your business provides. So that's just, doing the deliverables, doing your job. Customer care focuses more on building an emotional connection with customers. So that's a big word. There's a lot that goes into that. We'll cover that again as we move on. Customer service can happen before or after a purchase. Customer care starts from the first time a customer interacts with a company or brand. I had to throw the word brand because that's really what branding is as well. That facing, that interaction from the very first moment. Customer service metrics include response time and issue resolution rates. Customer care metrics include customer retention, net promoter scores, and customer lifetime value. That's kind of an interesting. I just threw that in there. Okay. And then customer service's effect on sales is more indirect, whereas in customer care can have a more direct effect on sales. So it's really interesting, the difference, because I think customer service is the terminology that we mainly use, but I think a lot of us are more in the customer care business, or we should be, and to a certain degree I think everyone should be in the customer care business a little bit, right? Because we're dealing with people. Absolutely. So I'm excited about today's topic. I'm excited to see what customer care means to you and to your father and to what your grandfather started, and how you provide that at Loose on a ongoing basis. I mean, over and over and over. I mean, you have to be top of your game all the time, which is you got to show up every time with a smile on your face, and absolutely with compassion and empathy and all that in your tone and your words and your voice. It's a lot. So we're gonna dive in. So let me ask you your first question. How do you define, so we're talking about this thing called unmatched customer care. It's a big term. How do you define it, and what does it mean for your customers?
Well, how I would define customer care, like you said, it's not just doing the job or getting the customer or the family what they want. It's making that personal connection from the very first time that they interact with us. I want them to feel like they're calling one of their family members. We come into their life for a short period, but if we do our job correctly, they will look to us to help them another time. It's a guarantee that everyone passes away, and we're just here to help them through this difficult time. A lot of people haven't gone through this before, and some deaths are more tragic than others. So it's just being that solid rock from every aspect, and just being kind and being there for someone, because sometimes they just need to let it out, and we have to be there to take it. And we just want everyone to feel comfortable, feel like they're at home. We're providing just hospitality, and that's why our logo is the pineapple. Right, the pineapple means hospitality.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So we're just trying to take people in to our family, treat them the way that they should be treated, and just maybe go one step above that they didn't know that they needed.
Do you think a lot of your, it's interesting because they are customers, but the minute they walk in your door, they're really guests.
Absolutely. I never use the word customer.
I was thinking about that
I've never said customer ever.
We're using the word customer throughout, and what's funny as I was preparing for this, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're not clients, they're customers, and then as I started talking, I'm waiting. I'm like, Mark's going to correct me here any minute, and they're not customers, they're guests.
They're guests or they're family.
Mm-hmm.
The families we serve.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. And that customer care, of course, starts, in every interaction, like I mentioned in the beginning, customer care starts from the minute you talk to them.
From the second we pick up the phone.
All the way through
From the second to they're coming in for a funeral, the way that they're approached when we stop them to ask them if they're going to the cemetery to get them in line for the procession. Every single thing has to be above and beyond.
Is there a standard in the customer care business in terms of funeral homes? Like, how do you know what superior customer care is? Like, how do you know if you're talking too much to them? Like, you want them to know you care, right? I go to funerals and I notice I'm always observing the funeral director and the people that work there, and because I study communications in college, and I'm always curious about human interaction, and I've always wondered how do the people at the funeral home know when to leave the room, when to come in, when to talk to the family, when not to talk to the family, what to say to them. How do you incorporate that personal approach? Like you said, every family's different, right?
Every family.
How do you know what superior customer care is for each family? How do you gauge that? How do you get a feel for that? What they need from you and your team?
Well, I think what we do is first and foremost, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we need to listen more than we talk.
Right.
And get the feel of what the family wants.
Yep.
How they perceive. Or how they visualize the funeral going.
Okay. So you're not in charge of the whole thing.
No,
you're actually.
No, I'm
okay.
more or less just opening up my house for families and friends to come and give their condolences. So I think we learn from other funeral homes' mistakes, and we just try not to do that. And we really just try to treat each person as we would want to be treated. Unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know which one to say. Everyone on my staff has gone through a significant loss, whether that be a parent, grandparent, spouse, child.
I see what you mean by that. Yeah, fortunate or unfortunate. Right?
And once you sit on that other side of the table, you really get a sense of what you need. In some families, they've gone through this before. They know exactly what they need to do. But some families, they have no idea where to even start. And us just being kind, treating them with respect, just letting them know that we're here to help them, not just now, but if they need anything in the future. We're coming into your family and for a short period, but just know we're always here to help you.
So you kind of like literally have to read the room.
You do.
You have to read the room, pay attention.
And because death is going to bring out emotions that could have been suppressed. So it's not always the best of times, but it's not always the worst of times. And that's when I said, how I said people have become less religious. When you see families that have a belief that this isn't the end, they're going to see their
passing on to heaven, to a better place, to another place.
It's those families that may have a little bit of regret. They don't have the faith that take death the hardest. And I think America in general, talking about death is taboo. And I don't think other places in the world. It's a natural part of life, and we should talk about it more because it's going to happen.
I believe it is. Yeah,
it is.
I think it is. Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, one of the things when we were talking before, you mentioned the values of sincerity, like very specific values that you believe in, that you incorporate into all of your interactions. You mentioned sincerity, respect, and empathy. So I'll say this again: sincerity, respect, and empathy. How do those three specific values play a role in your approach to customer care?
Well, you have to be sincere. People can read right through that. If they feel like this is just a business transaction, if they feel like we're just out there to
doing the motions,
going through the motions, like I tell everyone that I hire or works for us, if the families just become a number, if they could become customers, it's probably time to get out of the business. They can read sincerity, and you just have to believe in what you're saying. You have to know that your job is making a difference, and when you firmly believe that, then it will show. It will show through. Respecting each family. Every family is different. We serve every type of family, every religion, every economical background, and you treat them the exact same. There's not a single difference in my service from one family to another family.
The third one was empathy, but I'm thinking back to what you said about how you said it was an unfortunate or fortunate. Everyone on your staff has experienced grief, loss. They've gone through this process. So there's sympathy there too then, right? So in terms of doing your job, do both sympathy and empathy play a part, or more?
I would say that we're walking this journey with them. We somewhat know what they're going through, but that wasn't our dad. That wasn't our mom.
Yeah, you don't know exactly how they feel.
We don't know what their relationship was.
It's true.
So to say, and this is the biggest complaint I've heard from people standing at the casket is when someone comes and they mean well, but they're saying, so sorry for your loss, and I've lost someone, so I know what you're going through. You don't. You have absolutely no idea what that relationship.
That's a good point.
So we're here to help you, and we know what you're probably experiencing, and we're here to help you through that. But we don't know what your relationship with that loved one was, and it's different for every single person. So definitely feel that empathy, but to say that we know what they're going through, we don't. So
you don't say that to your guests. You don't say that to people.
I'm here for you. I'm here to help you with anything that you need. This is going to be a difficult time, but know that my staff, we're all here to help you any way we can.
That's really neat.
But to say that I know what you're going through because I've met thousands of families is the worst thing to say. And I would say that there are some funeral homes out there that are very cold and look at this as just get them in, get them out. And
really?
It's very unfortunate.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
And they're still in business?
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. I would say that Madison County is very blessed with the funeral homes that are here in town. I would not say that about a single one here in Madison County.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
The facilities that the funeral homes have here in town, they're just above and beyond a lot.
There must be truth to that, because a lot of them have been long-standing. A lot of them have been here for a very long time. Yeah, that's really, and that's nice. That's nice of you to say too.
It's the truth.
Yeah, that's really cool. Oh, so you have competition, but you're also proud of your industry.
Absolutely. And I don't want anybody to die, but the only way that I know that I can make sure that they get what they deserve is if they come to me.
Mm-hmm.
But if they go to another funeral home, that's fine. That's their choice. I just wish I could make sure that they get what they deserve. And I don't know if I think in this area, I wouldn't say that. But I think in some areas, it's not like that.
Mm-hmm. One of the things you mentioned to me too was that trust is a big thing. Obviously, I mean, if you get repeat business, you know you've done a good job. If one family recommends, you mentioned it in the beginning, it's nice when families come back. Nice.
Yeah, I know. It's difficult.
I'm trying to choose my words a little better, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
So let's tie trust into, number one, how do you establish trust, and how do you know that you've established trust? And then trust that's a big goal, to establish trust. It's hard to establish trust in a short period of time. Trust is usually built over time. So how do you, in the short time that you're working with a family, how do you go about establishing trust, and how do you do it in such a short period of time?
Well, I think it starts with being sincere.
Back to that sincerity.
Being sincere, listening, repeating back what they said, so they know that you're really listening. Being honest. They're people, and they're going through a loss, and this could be the most difficult time in their life, and you have to be honest with them and explain things, and we're responsible for their loved one, and if we do a good job, hopefully we've built that trust that we will do what we say and take it one step further, and just go above and beyond, and treat them take them in and act like they're part of our family, taking care of their loved one.
So the things that we do well and the things that we want to get better at as best we can, we want to measure them. We want to know, it's not good just to say, oh, I know I'm doing a great job, but do you really know? So it's always good to get feedback from key stakeholders. Maybe it's your employees, maybe it's the people you serve. As I mentioned in the beginning, Net Promoter Score, all these different things. So obviously you guys have been in business 45 years. You know what you're doing. You're obviously doing a good job. But on that personal level, how do you actually know? How do you gauge? How do you measure that you've done a great job? You provide that superior customer. How do you know that?
They tell us.
They tell you.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
I think a lot of the time, after we've ended the graveside service, and they come back, pick up their flowers, and the widow or widower comes up and says, "I couldn't do this without you."
Oh, that's nice.
We had no idea what we were doing. This was our first death, and every step of the way, and it's. Every single person on my staff treats people a certain way, and respects every person that's there. They'll tell us. They'll give us reviews. We send out something, and trust me, if we didn't do a good job, I think in the death industry, most people are very vocal. If we did a bad job, they'll tell us. So
do you actually send out a survey, or?
We'll send out a survey. One of the questions is, how did they choose us? How they thought the facilities were, how they thought your funeral director was, and then I think by looking at our Google reviews, I think we're doing a pretty good job.
Now you made me.
I think it's. We just really started trying to get things like that, and we're over 100. Almost
100 reviews.
Over 150 Google reviews.
That's great.
And are close to it.
That's good. That's good.
So.
Yeah, and my guess is probably the most meaningful feedback you can get isn't from the survey. It probably is at those verbal ones at the end, at the end of the service and everything.
Or, you did a good job when, again, unfortunately for the family,
I know, yeah.
They have another loved one that passes, and they call us because they know the type of service we give. case in point, I have a family right now. Their one loved one passed away in August, and they have another one that passed away just a few days ago.
Oh my goodness.
And if we did a bad job, they wouldn't come back to us.
So this is interesting. We always want repeat business. We want loyalty, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want longevity with our customers, clients, guests, whatever industry you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think funeral homes in general, that you talked about, there's some good ones and there's some bad ones? Do you think the ones that provide that superior customer service or superior customer care, they do pass it on from generation to generation? Do you feel those funeral homes are experiencing that multi-generational loyalty from their, a grandfather was buried here, and then a son was buried. A son came to we had a service for the son, and then we had another. Do you see a lot of that happening where a lot of family members are coming in over the years?
I definitely do.
Okay.
I definitely do. A lot of my families, your dad or your grandpa buried so and so, or you've buried our entire family. I hear that quite often.
Okay.
And it's humbling to hear that, because it just shows that what my grandfather started is still going.
That's awesome. Are you able to go as far as, oh, I recognize you, I knew your dad? I mean, is that...
Probably not.
I was going to say.
Yet.
Yeah, okay.
Not yet. But I have definitely met with families that I've met with them 2 or 3 times before.
So is there a line? I think this would apply for all industries. Is there a line where you might provide too much superior customer care? Like, can you cross a line? Can you get too personal, or is there still a kind of a distance you need to maintain?
It's got to be professional.
Yeah.
You don't try to make appointments with them, after hours to meet up or help you,
Right. I figured that.
I don't know how you could go too far above, unless you cross that barrier between business and personal, because everyone wants to be catered to, and we try to take the stress off of the families.
Yeah. So this is interesting. My next question is around training, passing on. So we're talking about values. We're talking about providing this superior customer care. Do you hire people? Because businesses struggle with this. What's trainable? What's not trainable? Some people hire based on skill sets. Some people hire based on talent, potential, the soft stuff, the intangibles. Do you, in your line of work, and keeping in line with that superior customer care, do you have to hire people that live it, breathe it, they already know it, and then you kind of just shape it more into your line of work? Or is that something that's trainable? Can you train that kind of attitude and that kind of practice, or you either have it or you don't?
I think you have it or you don't.
Okay.
I really do.
Okay. All right.
And you'll know if the person has it when they come in from the interview, or the first interview over the phone.
Okay.
If they, again, there's so many thoughts of what the funeral industry is, and it's not 9 to 5.
Right.
It's you were scheduled to be off at 4 o'clock. Well, you're not off until 6 because the job's not done. Those people that are willing to give it 110%, those are the type of people I want.
Do you expect people to match your enthusiasm, your passion, your level of care, or does everyone have to be at the same level all the time, or is that unrealistic or not needed?
I would love for them to be. If they want to work for me, I hope that they are. Everyone has bad days, but you don't let the family see it.
Okay. So what in your line of work, what do you think is the most important mindset to have?
I think the most important is.
And it could be one of your values. I just didn't know if there was something else.
I think what I need now is just people that are willing to work. I mean,
now you're in trouble.
and our job is not just doing a simple task for 8 hours or whatever you may be scheduled to work that day. It's going with the flow, knowing enough that, if the family requests something, knowing what to do and get it for them. We're just here to serve them.
Because you have to be selfless.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Do what needs to be done. Do it with enthusiasm, with care, with compassion. I got it.
And I know that all of our employees have families, and I try to keep that work-life balance as best as I can. The one that probably has it the worst is me, but that's okay. But we try to have a good time when we're there.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
we do. We're with each other more than we are with our families, and we really are a family taking care of families.
So just because you're in an industry that's dealing with sad moments doesn't mean you can't have fun. Doesn't mean that you can't be enthusiastic. Doesn't mean you can't have a good time. Yeah.
Not at all. We have to, or it's too depressing.
Yeah.
We have to be able to
We'll be able
laugh.
to survive.
And we have some families that laughter is how they get through all of this. That those great memories is bringing them great joy, and they know that their loved one is in a better place, not suffering, not on oxygen, not having to take all of this medicine anymore. It is a celebration of life.
Okay, very cool. So customer care, has that changed over the years? Would you say? So what would you say, going back to your grandfather, what has changed over the years and what has remained the same?
I think from our standpoint, I don't think much has changed.
Okay.
I think my grandfather wanted to go above and beyond for every family, and that's what we continue to do.
Okay.
I think the firms that have lost a little bit of that customer care could be because they're not getting as many people there. Their facilities are getting aged, and they don't have the finances to update that or repair things. It's very hard to find a licensed funeral director. Okay, because I, as of how the laws are in Indiana, I can't just pull someone off the street and say, I'm going to teach you to become a funeral director, or teach you to become an embalmer. In Indiana, you have to go to school. You have to obtain an associate degree. You have to be both a funeral director and an embalmer.
Oh, you do? Oh, wow.
Indiana. Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
So I can find people to be my assistants, my part-time workers, but trying to find a funeral director that has those same values
And skills.
And
willingness to do it. Wow. I didn't realize that was one and the same. I mean, I know that some funeral directors do both, especially those smaller ones. I didn't know in Indiana you have to do, you're required.
Have to do both.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's only maybe 2 people that are just licensed embalmers, and that's because they got grandfathered in from the probably 60s or 70s when they got licensed.
See, as we've been talking, and I'm hearing like what all goes into the funeral business, I'm like, man, I think maybe I'm going to switch from marketing to funeral directing. That sounds really. Cause I love people. I like serving people. I like taking care of people. It's kind of, I've had it since I was born. I really have. My mom tells me stories about just how I've always had an affinity towards caring for people. But she remembers when I was younger, she said that I always noticed the people that were on crutches or in a wheelchair or struggling. I always went over, even at a young age, I went over and helped. So as I'm listening to you, I'm like, man, maybe I'm in the wrong industry. And then you mentioned the embalming, and I'm like, I'm out. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah.
That would be a hard one.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of hats that I didn't know that I was going to have to wear when I became a funeral director. And the big one is mediator between families.
Really?
I didn't know I was going to do that.
You have to be a psychologist sometimes too?
Sometimes I feel like I know enough to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
But it's the big thing is when it's how society is, that it's not the nuclear family anymore. It's blended families, and emotions are high.
Oh.
And so, yeah, we again have to be that calm in the middle of a potential storm, I guess.
Interesting. So you mentioned that things haven't changed much, but what I mean, so but how do you there have to be some things that were passed down from grandfather to father to son, right? How do you I mean, how do you maintain that high level?
So I think what has changed is
because you're three different people.
Yep,
how do you do that?
Is big at being proactive instead of reactive.
Okay.
And the funeral industry as a whole is very slow to change. And so we've tried to be the forefront, at least in our community, where we, once we saw cremation wasn't kind of going anywhere, we opened up a crematory. We've had and it's still the only on-site crematory in Madison County since 1991.
Really? Interesting.
Then we saw the care of not just for human family members, but the love of those four-legged family members. And my dad opened up our pet division, Loyal and True Pet Cremation Services, in 2007. Again, when we see the cremations not going anywhere, we opened up a cremation-only cemetery right behind us off of 53rd Street. In 2013, I believe that was dedicated.
Okay.
And just so kind of having everything in one location is
one-stop shop
is what we try to do. Yeah.
That's really neat. I would think you could provide better service that way too.
Absolutely. And I guess one other thing is that we, like other funeral homes here, even in town, have, but we have what we call our community room that's open up to the public to have meetings, have birthday parties.
That building in the back? Is that where your office is?
That's where all of our arrangement offices
are.
Oh,
arrangement offices. Yeah.
My personal office, or where the funeral directors, their offices are, is in our main building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's where it all happens. But my dad built that building to meet with families, to keep them separated with the hustle and bustle of the
main
funeral
building. Smart
so
thinking.
They can have their privacy.
Smart.
They don't have to
be present in that space
exactly.
yet. Yeah.
Exactly. So
that's pretty smart.
We did that,
and that's a customer. I mean, that's another customer care origin. I mean, thinking about that, I mean, that changes the game.
And come in and look at our facilities. It's homey.
Wow.
It's not.
I've been in that actually. It's very
sterile.
nice.
Yeah.
You can make it turn into an Airbnb back there. It's pretty nice.
I think it's quite lovely.
I think it's pretty. It's beautiful on the outside and the inside.
And then that community room, it holds up to 100 people or so, and we've had wedding receptions, we've had birthday parties, graduation parties. It's not just for funeral dinners. One way that we've been able to market it for that is because it's not attached to the actual funeral home. It's a separate building. You don't have to go in through the main doors of the funeral home and take a left, and it's through the other set of double doors.
We're in the back.
Completely separate. And when you walk in, it does not scream funeral home at all. It's very homey.
No, it's very homey. Like I said, I've been in it. It's really nice. So let's. Okay. Earlier, you obviously had some kind words about some of the other funeral homes that are nearby. You obviously have a respect for the industry as a whole. But I mean, we all want to have a differentiator. We all want to have a competitive edge. So back to what you said, a lot of good funeral homes within Anderson, Madison County.
Absolutely.
And I would like to think we know this, we all think we provide good customer service. We all think we provide good customer care. But it's interesting, when they do surveys and they do studies and research, it's really interesting the level at which businesses think they're delivering something, and it's the number is always way higher than what the customers, the guests, and the clients actually say they're delivering. So we say or think we're doing a high level of this, that, or the other. Our the people we serve are saying, not so fast. So my guess is all the funeral homes throughout the country, every funeral home in the world, says we're in business because we provide superior customer care. We know that's not true. It just can't be. It's hard to deliver it on a regular basis consistently. So, but let's just argue that your competitors, if you will, are doing that. How do you feel your superior customer care? Is it unique? Are there some unique aspects to yours, and how does that provide a competitive edge for you, for Loose? I know that's a big question.
It is.
I just gave you a right hook. Sorry.
Yeah. So the competitive edge that we have versus other funeral homes.
I mean, just what do you feel is your competitive edge?
Our competitive edge is that we have everything in one location.
That is your competitive edge. Just what we just talked about.
That's okay. One of them. I think our competitive advantage is also the staff that we have. We are a big family that we're here to take your hand and just guide you through this. And that's from the people that are answering my phones to the people that are going to your home or going to the hospital or nursing home where you pass away, not making the families feel rushed, being sincere. I'm very blessed with the staff that we have now, and I couldn't do it without every single one of them.
That's awesome.
So I think we just have a great staff that everyone, like you said, do I expect everyone to have that same type of customer care that I may have or want everyone to have? And I think they do.
Oh,
I think they do.
That's cool.
And I'm very blessed to where we are and on our 45th year.
That's wonderful. That's pretty cool. I had another question for you. It was really important, and it just went out. Anyway, so what I'm hearing, which is kind of cool, so the business is Loose Funeral Home and Crematory. That's the business name. You're in the business of providing funeral services. Your brand is superior customer care. That's what I'm hearing.
In hospitality.
There you
Absolutely.
go. In the hospitality, which I think feeds into that.
Because, one of those names of a funeral director or funeral service provider, one of those old ones is undertaker. And that the reason why we have that is because we undertake those tasks that other people don't want to take on.
That's very true.
And that is every aspect that, if a family asks us to do something, if it's legal and it's ethical, we're going to do it for them. We're here to help them with any requests that they have.
So we talked about the consistency that you guys deliver. How about on the guest side, the customer side, whichever word you want to use? Have expectations changed on their end? Have you had to make adjustments over the years to meet the changing expectations of the people you serve?
Yeah, I think more so than ever, people are just wanting to know the bottom line, the figure.
Really?
Yeah.
More so now? Interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Now, it could be because of the state of our country and, they don't have the extra funds. But I think, again, people don't want to talk about death, so then they're not prepared. They don't talk to their loved ones about what their wishes are. So when mom passes away, the children, they don't want to deal with it, and they just want the bottom dollar, and they don't see the psychological benefit of having a funeral, or they don't see the value
on
of
it,
having people come and give their condolences. But they're 6 months down the line, I firmly believe they'll be wishing
they had. Yeah, it goes back. It was something you said earlier about how the change in religious perspectives, and I almost wonder, from my understanding, funerals were one of those things where you do it right no matter what, right? And maybe people just, they don't look at it that way as often as they used to.
Well, I think when someone passed away just a few decades ago, that family's world stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they were doing, they stopped. They focused on their loved one to celebrate what they believed that their loved one deserved, and to lay them at their final resting place.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's, let's get this done. Let's get it done as fast as we can.
I have things I have to do.
We've got things we have to do. I live out of state, so I'll be in for one day. Let's get this done, and it's very sad.
So when it's transactional, so from their end, that's very transactional.
Oh, absolutely.
But do you guys still provide?
Have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll give each family exactly what they want. Some families, they want, you have to check in on them. You have to let them know that we're here for them. Other
Mm-hmm.
families, they want to come in. They don't want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's very transactional.
Wow. Those must be the harder ones.
It's the ones that I feel sorry for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some families don't have the means.
Yeah, right.
And that's fine.
Absolutely.
And that's fine. We're here, and
Absolutely.
we don't treat them any different or anything like that. And what I tell those families, if we can't have a service here, that's okay. But go get food or pizza and sit in a circle and talk about the loved one.
Interesting.
Because if you don't do that, I think you're going to be fighting it for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the example that they gave in mortuary school about the psychological benefit of having a funeral is, the widow goes to the grocery store, and every single time for the next 3 months she sees someone different. And they didn't have that. The public didn't have that time to say goodbye or give their condolences, so they have to start that grieving process every single time
For months.
Mm-hmm. And that just delays the grieving process.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I don't think you ever get over a death. I think you learn how to get through it. And one of our jobs is, if the family needs us, we're here, and we're one of those people to help you through it.
Mm-hmm. I would not want to be in your shoes when a family comes in where a parent lost a child. That has to be just horrific.
And when I became a father, is when that really hit home.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when you have that personal experience and you know what you were given or lack thereof, you then know what you should be giving your families and the attention that they deserve.
Wow. I commend you. I don't know how you're dealing with, obviously you have people that come in that are quiet, but if they do get emotional, here you are, you have a job to do. We're here for a purpose, and you have to really balance between, I got to let this person in front of me have this moment. I can't fix this, change this, stop it. Like, that has to be extremely, extremely difficult for you when they come into that room. You're there for a purpose, and they're just a mess, so emotional, and you got to somehow, again, it's not just the day of the funeral. Even in that moment, in that moment may be even harder than the funeral itself. Mm-hmm. You have to deal with all those emotions that are flying around, stay professional, and then, of course, provide that empathy at the same time. That has to be extremely difficult. Mm-hmm. Wow. I never thought about something.
And that's why some people are out of this business.
Yeah,
they
can't do it.
They can't do it.
They literally can't. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's why I also think you have it or you don't. You can't learn.
You really can't.
Business. You either have that in your core, in your heart, of the sincerity and wanting to help, or this is just a job, and I don't want those people.
There's always that nature nurture, debate that people have. So your grandfather was in it. Your father did it. Did all three of you possess that same? Would you guys say you're all the same in terms of your ability to provide that empathy. Were you guys all, were you born with that? Like you said, did you learn it from your father over time as you worked there, observing him? Like how much nurture nature do you think went into that?
I never got to work with my grandfather.
Right.
So I don't know from personal account, but what I've heard of how my grandfather is he was just someone that people could depend on. He was there, and very selfless.
So there you go. There's that selflessness again. Yeah.
Now I will say that because of the job and how this is, or how the funeral industry is, he had to sacrifice his family. He wasn't there for those birthdays. He wasn't there for those big holidays. He may have started it, but as soon as we get a phone call, you don't know how long it's going to take. And for the
you can't be like, I gotta.
Yes, and for the first 3 years, I mean, he was living at the funeral home. I mean, he would come home, obviously, and things, but that was before answering services. I think it was until the early 2000s, 2003, 2004. We had someone physically at the funeral home 24 hours. And
your dad did that for a while, answering those phones.
He did that to give my grandfather a break.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and then seeing my dad, because I have worked with my dad. Again, the selflessness, the community servant that my father is. I'm very blessed to follow in their footsteps, but I have some big shoes to fill.
Yeah. That's really cool. So you learned from your dad.
Oh, absolutely.
But you most likely.
I think I was kind of groomed to do this.
Okay.
It wasn't forced, but everything that I was taught, the way to act, the way to communicate with people, was all based off of how he was as a funeral director.
That's cool. So you there's no way to gauge it, but obviously you were born with certain tendencies, certain perspectives, certain attitudes. You developed those, and then you also observed your dad doing what he did. You learned from him, and then here you are today. It's really cool. I like it. All right. We're at the dad joke segment.
Okay.
Let's do the dad joke. You're not supposed to give the answer, by the way. So I'm going to read it to the audience. For those of you who have listened to a previous podcast, I give the question for the dad joke. I do not give the answer. If you want the answer when this podcast launches, goes live, is published, then go to our Facebook page and the answer will be there. This is one of my favorite ones. I love this one. I shared this with my team originally back in October of 21. We've been doing dad jokes here now for over 3 years. We have a weekly team meeting, and I share one every week. It's a disease, really. But my team loves it. The thing that's really frustrating with dad jokes is you think you have a great one, and then people go, "Ooh, that was no good." And then you go to give one, and you think it's going to suck, and they go, "Oh man, that was great." It's so unpredictable. It's so dad jokes are dangerous because you never know what kind of response you're going to get. So, all right, here it is. Remember, don't give the answer because you can see it too. How do you organize an outer space party? How do you organize an outer space party? Some of you may get that right away. That's great. If you don't, give it some thought and then check out our Facebook page when this launches. And so if you're listening to this, go to our Facebook page. It'll be there. How do you organize an outer space party? It's a good one. Okay. I do have a final question for you, Mark. What's next for your, we've talked about your grandfather, your dad, and then yourself. What does the future look like for your industry, for your business itself? You could answer it several different ways. What's the future for Loose? What's the future for the industry? And or what do you think the future holds in terms of continuing to give that superior customer care? What does the future look like in those spaces?
Well, I think as an industry, again, how my father has been proactive. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to do those things. I think there's going to be a lot of funeral homes selling and or coming together.
Merges?
Merges.
Really?
And that's not coming from me. That's coming from the statistics from our state organization, our Indiana Funeral Directors Association.
Okay.
I feel like I heard this at a meeting last year. I think they said by 2030, 2035, there's about 660 funeral homes or so in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
They said, again, by 2030, 2035, there's only going to be like 500.
So, wow.
So, I mean, that's a lot.
Interesting.
But the ones that it's going to hurt are the mom and pop shops that are doing 30 funerals a year. It's a one-man show.
Right.
And when I say that cremation rate is over 50% as a nation, now your funeral home may not be there yet, but it's coming.
I see.
And if you are used to having a one-man show and you're having 30 traditional funerals versus you're having 15 of them of having absolutely no service.
Won't pay the bills. Yeah.
Wow. As a future of Loose Funeral Home, I think our future is strong. I'm only 33. I think, God willing, I have a lot of life into me. I don't plan on going anywhere. I think it's going to be great. I think my dad has kind of set us up for success of having our pet side, which is a very large business that has started.
It's really cool. It's like a disruptor.
Yeah.
It's really, very innovative.
Yeah, and then the cemetery. I think, again, if you saw our cemetery, it's more of a garden setting than a typical upright monuments or even flat markers. It's flower beds, water features. We have music going 24/7.
Do you see, it sounds like from our discussion that superior customer care hasn't changed much. Do you see it changing in the future? Or do you think what you're doing today is going to hold steady for the next 20 years? Do you see any changes in that? I mean, do you think people are going to change? I mean, what do you see?
I mean, I think if our economy doesn't get better, it's definitely going to be more challenging with people being able to pay for our services. They want the bare minimum. Yeah.
Or it becomes more transactional.
Yeah, because again, they don't see the reason to have a funeral. They don't have the finances to do it, and unfortunately, a lot of families are broken. They're only doing this because it's their obligation to take care of it. But they haven't talked to their parents in years.
Oh, wow.
And so it's
never thought of it that way.
Yeah. It's definitely changing, and we are just trying to adapt and be that solid person that's there to help them.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But I think the future is bright, and like I mentioned, I personally have children, and I would love for them to come into the business, but I'm never going to once say it.
You have a really good shot. It sounds, I mean, only in the numbers, but again, going back to that grooming and that nature and nurture, it sounds like you have a pretty good chance. My guess would be. In fact, you might find yourself being like, all four of my children want to be a part of it. Who's in charge?
Hey, and if that happens, great. But the funeral industry has changed in the last 5 years, last 10 years. With the cremation and the way that the consumer is, it's too early to state what it's going to be like when they get to the age to be able to do something.
I think you're taking the right approach. I don't know if every is the right word, but I'm willing to bet the majority of family businesses want to see that next generation come along. Who wouldn't want to pass it on? Who wouldn't want that legacy? Legacy means different things for different people, but ultimately, I think people would love it if a someone in the family. That isn't always necessarily a child. It could be a niece or a nephew, right? It could be a cousin.
Absolutely.
All kinds of family members can be a part of a family business. We see that a lot. But you're taking the right approach. You can't. It's like anything in life. You can't force it. You don't want to make it an expectation. We know human nature, human behavior. The more you try to force something, the more people are going to run from it. So the best way to make sure that none of your kids are part of fourth generation is just make sure they know without a doubt that you're expecting them to do that. I mean, that's just the way humans are. So, yeah. Okay. So you shared a little bit in the beginning about Loose Funeral Homes. I want to make, for those of you that want to learn more about it, go to, their website is loosefuneralhomes.com. That hasn't changed, right?
No, or they can type in loosecares.com.
That's right.
It'll take them
I thought I found it that way. Yeah, the Loose Cares. I love that, by the way. That's pretty cool. Cares in that's pretty neat. Loose Cares. Which is a play on. I love that. It's a noun and a verb. I love that. Very well done. Was that your idea?
No.
Okay.
Definitely not going to take that one.
Okay, because that's a good one.
Probably my dad.
Oh, that's wonderful. And then on Facebook, just put in Loose Funeral Home and Crematory. Is there? I mean, my guess if you put Loose Funeral Home, you'll probably get it as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Any other places where they can learn more about you or your family or the business?
No, I think the only other business that I would plug in would be our Loyal and True. A lot of people
Loyal and True.
LoyalAndTrue.com. Loyal and True on Facebook. That's our pet division.
Oh, okay.
Where we.
So you have a website specifically for the pet division. Okay, very cool.
Absolutely. And,
okay.
We treat, people's pets just like we would a loved one, because we're first and foremost a funeral home, and we've just kind of taken that and put it on the pet side.
That's wonderful. That's really cool. Yeah. And that continues to grow.
Yes. We actually do a route throughout Indianapolis, or Marion, Hamilton, Boone County, twice a day, because we serve not just Madison County, we serve Central Indiana.
And do you treat the loved ones of that pet the same way you do the?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's the same level.
Sometimes it's harder for the loved ones than when they lose a parent.
Look, you mentioned just a few minutes ago about broken families, unfortunately. A lot of static and tension and separation. With pets,
or that was the last thing that their wife and them had together.
Oh, that could be that too.
The husband passes away, and that's
they lost that bond. Not to mention the unconditional love that pet brought.
Absolutely. So it's again, on that side, we have a great staff that truly cares about what they do, and that is how we're successfor.
It's cool.
Is with the staff that we have.
It's really cool. Well, before I close out, I want to thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for accepting the invitation to be on here.
Yes, anytime.
And I love talking about customer service, customer care. I think it's, again, I said it earlier, it's needed. I mean, if you don't think that you're in the customer service, customer care business, you're probably not going to be successful. Whether you're providing a product or a service, you're in it. You're dealing with humans, you're in it. And if you forget about that, you're in trouble. And then, of course, you have industries like yours where it's paramount, it's monumentally important. But again, doesn't necessarily mean everyone does it well and does it in a positive way. So good for you. Love it. Love the multi-generational. Love the way you guys treat care. Love the pride you have in your brand, and again, I love the passion you have for the industry as a whole, and just again that selflessness and that empathy and that sincerity and that respect. It's these are values that we talk about, but again, not everyone delivers them consistently and with passion and enthusiasm. It's something that I think our society needs, not just at a time of death, but just on a regular basis. So I think that's good. So I think that is your competitive edge. I think that is your advantage. So good for you guys. Good for you. Well, I thanked everybody in the beginning. So again, thanks for tuning in today. Again, I know you have lots of things to do. You have work to do. You have other things demanding on your time. So thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, and that'll be because of you, Mark, not because of me. But if you like this one, I'd encourage you to check out some other episodes that we've done. We could be found on iHeart Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and as well as our website. If you go on our website under resources, you can find us at element212.com. That's element212.com. So again, thank you. And may your family, your team, your customers, your guests, your whatever term you use, and your communities be blessed. Have a wonderful day.